Community Vlogmas, December 10th, 2019. Who has had the most impact on your life? Well, at first I thought, dang, wouldn't that be my heroes that I've already talked about? My grandparents and Pearl and Jim? Maybe I've already answered this one. But then I think about who's had the most impact on my life. It's not always been the people I can look up to or want to emulate. It's not always the people I would choose to turn to for advice or counseling or to seek their wisdom. It's not always been people I know. Notice when I did my heroes, the ones that came to mind were those who were weaved within my day-to-day life. Who's had the most impact on my life? Well, poor Roger didn't make it as a hero when I talked about heroes, but he makes it into this category. That's my husband, if you don't know. His impact on me has been, it has something to do with acceptance. I don't know if I'd name it that. I have to figure out what I'd name it. I mentioned in an earlier video, we're just terribly different people, spiritually, politically, our life experiences, everything about us is totally different. And yet we live together well. He's had an awful lot of impact on my life because former partners have kind of tolerated differences, but it never felt like they accepted the differences. That's a big difference. They weren't disrespectful, but Roger has accepted the differences. Oh, sometimes he might joke about them, but there's a feeling of being accepted that he's had a huge impact on my life that way because I've had people in my life who accepted me, but I've not actually had the intimate relationship within the household that felt that way. It's made me feel safe and loved. It's made me have a relationship to my relationship that has to do with the future of it. Just knowing it would always be and always be this thing to me. There's a whole bunch of people that came into my mind. Some, well, by the examples of their living that I used as lessons in how I did not want to live. But the only other person I'm going to talk about in this, I'm trying to keep these videos not too long, is, I'll take you back. It's a time capsule into 1970. And I love my world civilization class so much. I was about to graduate, and my teacher was this amazing man. His name was Mr. Yulduzian. He's been dead for decades. But Mr. Yulduzian loved the passion he saw in me. I was the quiet kid in the class who didn't talk to anybody, just quietly studied and soaked up world civ like a sponge and wanted more and more and more. Mr. Yulduzian decided that I was going to be a valedictorian speaker. And I don't know why the man decided that, because I couldn't say 2 words without stumbling over my tongue, and I couldn't look strangers in the eye, and I couldn't get in front of people. But he decided I needed to be a class valedictorian. And I remember he told me at the time, it's not because of them. You're not representing anybody here. It's not because of your family. I think you need this. Well, he couldn't have been more right. He worked with me after school every day for a couple of months. We graduated in we had a class of like 300 and some, 320, 30, 40 people. I couldn't fit in our high school facility for that, so we graduated in the field house at the University of Delaware because that's where the high school was near. So this huge cavernous football stadium, and me shaking in my gown, absolutely terrified. And up to the moment I stood in front of that microphone, I was telling myself I couldn't do it. I looked out and I saw my parents, and that didn't help. And I saw my friends, and that didn't help. And I saw my teachers, and that didn't help. And then I saw Mr. Yulduzian. He was sitting with the teachers, and he was doing this. And I did it. I don't remember doing it. There's pictures of me doing it. Indeed, I did do it. But something happened then. As I was speaking whatever I spoke, probably some trite graduation stuff, and as I was speaking and my body was becoming one big hive, because the more I spoke, the hives were just creeping all over my body. By the time I was done, I looked like a balloon. Even as I was doing it, the only thing I remembered was, if I can do this, I can do anything. If I can do this, I can do anything. And afterwards, when it was all over with, and mixing and mingling with family and friends and everything else, and Mr. Yulduzian came up to me and he said, if you did this, you can do anything. So, from two opposite extremes of my life, I didn't meet Roger till I was 50, and I was 16 at this point in my life with Mr. Yulduzian. I'm going to say that in a strange life where there's been a lot of impact, both positive and negative, Mr. Yulduzian and my husband, Roger. I wish you all mirth and reverence. Merry part.